1. For 4 years, I worked at a casual and upscale restaurant, one that is normally attached to malls and known for their cheesecakes. Most of the customers we used to get were families, young couples, and the occasional group of teenagers. Now for some backstory. I have naturally blonde hair and blue eyes. However, I had recently colored my hair dark black. In the summer, I get tan quite easily, and I'm talking extremely tan to the point where I almost look of a different ethnicity. My co-worker V was born in Korea, but adopted by a wonderful Greek and American family when she was just 2 years old. She has always been open about the fact that she was adopted, and actually loved talking about it. All of this comes into play later. So I am working an afternoon in the middle of July, working in a section right next to one of my good friends, V. V gets a table of 2 middle-aged couples sitting at one of her tables, and she goes over to do the greeting and welcome to the restaurant. While this is all happening, I'm standing immediately next to her, making small talk with one of my tables. Because I was having my own conversation, I didn't hear exactly what the table said to her, but I did notice that she immediately did a 180, turned around and headed to the kitchen with tears in her eyes. I excused myself from my table, followed her into the kitchen, and asked what happened. She told me in speaking with her table, one of the Karens asked about her ethnicity, because they noticed she had a tattoo in Greek on her wrist. V then begins to explain that she was adopted from Korea when she was young, and attempted to talk about her adoptive family. One of the Karens immediately cut her off and asked, "Oh, you were adopted, I see. How does it feel knowing your real parents didn't want you?" That caused V to break down at the table and head to the kitchen. Now, I'm pretty thick-skinned and it takes a lot to get to me, but I really felt for V in this situation. I tell her not to worry about it, and I would take care of the table if she would like me to. She said yes. I then go over to the table, introduce myself, and say that V's shift is over, it wasn't, and that I would be taking care of them. They order drinks with me. I bring them back to the table and start making small talk with these people. Part of me wanted to see if they were really the assholes V made them out to be, or if she was being overdramatic, which she was known for doing. Now, one of the men commented to me that I looked absolutely stunning for a Middle Eastern woman. The dark hair and my very brown tan led them to believe I was from the Middle East. I respond with a thank you, but inform them that I am in fact not Middle Eastern but German. Then they begin commenting on my natural features, aka my box-dyed black hair and my dark tan, but I inform them that I am naturally blonde with fair skin and blue eyes, and tan very easily. They all look absolutely horrified upon me saying this, and Karen number 2 chimes in with, "You were born with the perfect features. Why would you choose to ruin your appearance by trying to look Middle Eastern? You are the representation of the perfect human specimen." At this point, I am absolutely gobsmacked and at a loss for words. So I mumble something about needing to go check their food they hadn't ordered yet. I go back into the kitchen with a spaced-out look in my face, and V asked me how it went. I told her that the table was made up of the most insensitive, racist, ignorant, and tone-deaf people I have ever met. By this point, our general manager had been informed of what was said to V, and wanted to know how my interaction with them went. I told him what was said to me, and that was his breaking point. He marched over to the table, ripped them a new one about how they had treated V and I, and that they were to leave the restaurant immediately and never return. They all looked absolutely dumbfounded. The Karens got red in the face, and the men hung their heads in shame. After they paid their bill with no tip, the men skulked out of the restaurant, while their Karen wives caused an absolute scene. 2. I've been serving in the same restaurant for almost 2 years now, but I've been a server for almost 23 years total off and on. Last night was the normal busy Friday, long waits, crabby guests, mediocre tips, with a smattering of amazing people in between. One of my last tables was a couple who were fun from the beginning, joking and laughing, truly acknowledging me, and allowing me to say everything I'm required to say. After ordering, the wife tells me they're in no big hurry as this is the first time they've been out alone together in over a year. I'd expected her to say, since COVID, since I hear that a lot, but was surprised at it being over a year. I asked if they had come out to celebrate something or if they just didn't get out much, and she replied that they didn't get out much because they have a lot of kids. Of course I was curious, so I asked how many kids qualified as a lot. She responded nonchalantly, 10. 10 kids. My mind was going apeshit. I can barely afford one kid right now, and trying to keep him sane during all of this has been a struggle. How are they surviving with 10? I replied with something along the lines of 10 really being a lot of kids, and asked the age range of the kids. She told me 18 to 9 months. We joked about how there must never be a dull moment in their home and laughed a bit. Then she shared that all the kids had been adopted, the 18-year-old most recently, and they had been surprised when they told her they wanted to adopt her. Apparently her exact words were, "You want me?" That's when I got misty-eyed. These two people were so full of love, so kind-hearted, just grateful to have a night for themselves. I wanted to do something for them. I went to my manager and said, "I want to ask you a question, and you can tell me no, but I have to try." I then told him their short story and asked if we could comp their app or do something, just to make their night more memorable. He didn't even hesitate and told me he would do whatever my heart desired for them. They got my employee discount, 30% off their entire check. They enjoyed their meal, packed up their leftovers, attentively listened to the donations and gift card spiel I had to give them, and made a donation even. I then surprised them with the check. I told them that I wanted to do what I could for them, so I had given them my employee discount. I said I wanted to give back a little bit of kindness to them that they had given to so many. The wife asked me, "Why, you are like the sweetest human being ever." I told her that I felt moved to do something, and this was all I could do for them at the moment. She was crying. He was speechless. I started crying. It was just a touching moment. One of those pure, heartwarming moments. The discount they received was around $17, their check was around $53 still. And they left me $30 and told the manager I was the best person that they had ever had the joy of meeting. Moments like these are why I still enjoy serving. 3. I feel like enough time has passed that I can finally share this. I live in a little town with a chemical company that basically owns the town. It's massive and the headquarters are located here, so it basically is one of the reasons the town is still as active as it is. That being said, we have a small chain steak restaurant, less than 10. It's basically the fanciest place in town to eat. Not going to lie, the place is good and lunch is where it's at. Some weekends I could really make some great tips. For the most part I loved my job and really enjoyed working. The big chem company brought a lot of business and you could always tell when we would have important guests come into town. Heck, we even had governors and people like that dine when they were in town. We had one shitty section right in front of the fireplace, one I guess. All tables, no booths. Sometimes you would get lucky and have a large reservation, but for the most part, people hate tables. Which means you might have one table and the rest of your section empty for a while. The avid day came one lunch shift. The table of 15. I was stuck in the shit section, but a large party, no big deal. If all goes well, I'll make a little cash. By the time the party is done, that room will be closed and I can clean, run errands, and call it a day. First the table was a big Jesus group. Fuck. In our area, this means they will typically try to pray for me, and I'm looking at $1 tips per ticket or some shit. Second, they roll in slow and late. Some half the table has food, while the other half is just chilling, eating hot food that just came out, and balancing new drink orders and refills. And can't forget that bread. No big deal, everyone finally has food and drinks, and now I can take a small breath. When out of the blue, one of the older ladies has a fucking stroke at the table. You read that right, a stroke. She puked her heart, then her husband noticed the other symptoms, and suddenly it's massive chaos. Yelling, screaming, others near started to puke. It was terrible. I pulled out my phone and called 911, ran and got my manager, where he yelled at me to start printing checks. Then once the EMT yells up, he yells at me for not passing out checks fast enough and swiping cards. Wouldn't you know, almost everyone was a separate check, and at this point, they have all huddled together like goats and I have no clue who's who in that mess. That's when the family also left to meet at the hospital faster than I could catch them. Then ticketed items were comped because my table caused a scene. Then management jumped down my throat for not getting tickets out fast enough. So long story short, that's what finally broke me. Being blamed for not slamming tickets down while a lady was in a life-threatening situation. And because tables around the party had to be comped, because of the puke and then missing checks, because the family left to go to the hospital. That was the point where I knew I was done. I worked for a few more months and quit shortly after my husband and I were married, so I could go back to school, which I did and successfully finished. I knew at that moment I just couldn't do it. Plus, cleaning up puke and parts of the table that did pay me only left $10 or so, yep. 4. I work at a TGI Chili Bees in a state where indoor dining is reduced to 25% capacity. Because of this very fact, we are almost always on a wait during dinner. We are also in charge of taking down information for contact tracing, so there is no open seating anymore. You must talk to the host to be seated. Last night I was bartending, and right next to the bar is a takeout area which has its own entrance, so many times guests will wander in through the wrong door, at which point I direct them towards the host for seating. 3 young African-American adults, yes, that is relevant to mention, came in through the takeout area, so naturally I point them towards the front of the restaurant to go see the host about getting a table. They're visibly annoyed that I wouldn't let them seat themselves and then get sat at my table. I greet them and they aren't ready to order beverages, so I agree to come back. It's dinner time, so in this time my section was quickly filling up and I'm running around. They wave me down for drinks, and as soon as I bring those, they let me know they need more time, so I go to my next table to take their order. I finish that, so I head to the point of sale to put in their order. One of the people from the annoying table comes up to me to tap me on the shoulder during a pandemic and tells me they're ready to order. I finish what I'm doing and head over to take their order. Not only were they not ready, but they modified every single thing they ordered like crazy. I was really annoyed and busy, so I go to the point of sale to put in their food, which included an appetizer and a well-done steak, and went into the kitchen to grab another table's food. I come out of the kitchen, not even 2 minutes later, and all 3 of those at the annoying table are gone. Not a jacket or a phone left behind. Okay, that's weird, but I'll just ask the host because they probably told her where they went. Nope, nobody knew where they went. We even checked the bathrooms and outside. Their appetizer comes up, but they're not back. I tell the host to leave the table though, because at this point we're on a wait, and if they lost their table, they'd have to wait again. Their entrees come up, and they're still not around, so I clean off the table and tell the host to clean it, since clearly they're not coming back, right? I mean, they've been gone upwards of 20 minutes. I get sat again at the table, and I'm going about my business when about 5 minutes later in walks annoying table, and looks shocked that there's someone else sitting at their table. Mind you, this new table already had drinks and was ready to order. I was busy, so I told my coworker to tell them we thought they left. Annoying table starts throwing a fit, yelling "discrimination" as they walk out. Great look for us. Long story short, we're in a pandemic, and things are a lot different everywhere, including restaurants. If you're going to eat out, please be flexible, and don't take up a table for long periods of time, as we're at reduced capacity. 5. Hi all. This is my attempt to write about what I'm going through right now, as I watch my friends' restaurants close, their communities and livelihoods destroyed by a combination of COVID and complete lack of federal support. My city has been absolutely devastated by closures the last 2 weeks. The week of goodbyes started with texts from different people. Our last day is Sunday. Help us kill all the kegs. My bar's last day is Saturday. I thought we could make it. This hurts. I go to both the goodbyes I'm invited to, in the same way one goes to funerals for friends' relatives. I might not know them that well, but my friends do, and this piece of their life is shattered. I go to be strong and supportive and positive, and I get back in my car and cry. On Saturday, the whole neighborhood is there. This place has been around for almost 30 years. People are sharing memories, the sunlight is glinting. Too perfect for late October. We hide inside, even though we're not supposed to. What will they do, shut us down? We're already there. What's next? Everyone asks each other, but there's nothing out there, so no one knows. I came for Sam, who ran the bar. He could make you a cocktail out of anything. He's considering working at a liquor store, maybe moving back into his parents' place. He used to make me full delis of margaritas when we worked together. And if I couldn't finish them, I'd just stick a lid on top and drink it at home. He once shaved an espresso bean over a cocktail that tasted just like my morning coffee with cream. I scrolled through all the comments on the post of their closure. All the breaking hearts. We'll miss you all, especially Sam, one said. The next day, a different bar. The paper was already on the windows. This was staff and plus ones, the only people they wanted for goodbye. Everyone showed, so I took pictures for them, and we talked about what to do next. But there's nothing out there, so no one knows. We carried heavy boxes of food out the silent kitchen and into my friend's car. Both days I still have to work, and strangers ask, "How are you doing?" "I'm good," I say. I'm watching my friends' dreams die. I'm watching them go broke. I'm watching something I love implode. We'll get through it. I smile under the mask. They're happy for the reassurance. I cry when I leave work too. Where do all these tears come from? They keep falling and falling. I'm crying for so many people. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Spinning Plates, episode 121. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video, and especially to the author of the final story there. I know that was a difficult story to write, certainly a difficult story to share. We're living in times where, although there is a glimmer of hope on the horizon, there is a possibility of a promising vaccine out there, but that's going to take time. Even if it works, even if it does what they say it does, to the level they say it will, it's going to take a lot of time to test it and then to roll it out, and obviously there are certain people that will have to get it first, and they're our priority, the more vulnerable folks. We're probably going to be in this for at least another year, I'd wager, by the time things start to even look normal again. And so who knows when restaurants will be able to open, who knows when they'll be able to open normally, when they'll be able to open at capacity. And even after that happens, there's going to be people who just don't want to go out, who feel reluctant, because we've gotten used to this kind of either lockdown or near lockdown situation in some areas, where the world, going back to a world that looks like it used to, doesn't even seem a possibility. So it's going to be a very long time, and realistically, I don't think we're ever ultimately going to get back to normal. I mean, I'm certainly probably always going to keep a mask in my pocket, especially when I'm around large crowds. I mean, right now I keep 2 in my pockets at all times, for in the rare occasions I'm actually out of the house. Hand gel will just become a normalcy, and maybe when things calm down, I'm not going to wipe all my groceries down like I do right now, but I think some things still will be, like cans and all, which I generally would wipe off the top of a can anyway, but I wouldn't use disinfectant wipes to do it, although I do now. But, as I said, there is a glimmer of hope, and we just have to hold on to that and try as best we can to look forward to the day when society returns to some kind of normalcy. It returns to the society we need to function in. And of course, don't forget the people who have willfully and arrogantly made it more difficult for us to get there, but I'm not going to get into that, because that's a whole lengthy debate that I'd probably end up saying some things that I wouldn't really regret, but things I would certainly wish I'd phrased better. I mean, I pity their ignorance, but it's kind of hard to feel pity for people who are making things more difficult on everyone else. Their argument is, oh, well, why don't you just stay at home? Then it's, well, how about you just stay at home if you can't follow these very simple rules? Nope. I said I wasn't going to get into it, and I'm not going to get into it. I'm going to be calm and happy Hellfreezer. In fact, I'm going to wrap up this final video of the week. This one was a bit later, actually, finishing off. because things are a lot more restricted in the restaurant industry, because places are indeed closing down. There aren't as many stories as there used to be, so these videos are a bit more difficult to do. Used to go from having like 2 weeks worth of stories to do in one batch of requests to being very difficult trying to put one together now. And so I just can't express how truly grateful I am to people that are still willing to share their stories with me during these extremely terrible, terrible times. But brighter days are ahead, and we must focus on the brighter days. That is what makes us human, our ability to hope for better times in darkest moments. Hope is our greatest strength. And that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.